Hey, this is Michael Emery. Thanks for tuning into the Slow Baja. This podcast is powered by Tequila Fortaleza, handmade in small batches, and hands down, my favorite tequila. Hey, I want to tell you about your new must-have accessory for your next Baja trip. Benchmark Maps has released a beautiful, beautiful Baja California Road and Recreation Atlas. It's a 72-page large format book of detailed maps and recreation guides that makes the perfect planning tool for exploring Baja. Pick yours up at benchmarkmaps.com. Hey, it's Michael Emery in Slow Baja, and I am in beautiful San Juanico, Baja California, and I'm with Jeffrey Westman, who is down here building a beautiful surf dream. I guess that's what I'd call it. And you've just finished telling me it was going to be surf, yoga, wellness.
Yeah.
How does this live in your mind?
Partly it lives in my mind as a way for me to get to spend more time in Baja California.
I don't know anything about that.
It grew out of me actually arriving here in the middle of the night, 30-something years ago, and waking up as a 19-year-old on the edge of the cliff at the second point, and realizing it was the most amazing wave I'd ever seen in my entire life. Jumped out of bed and surfed until I couldn't surf anymore. And since that day, I've wanted to be here. I've wanted to own property here, and I wanted to do something. And at this stage in my life, just building a house and having a place to come hang out isn't terribly realistic as a dad and a husband and trying to put life together. But if I could turn it into a hospitality business, it made a lot more sense to be able to exert the energy and the investment to make this happen. So, for me right now, it's a big dream coming true. And I kind of slipped into pseudo hospitality business through Airbnb and doing Airbnbs over in Laredo and doing Airbnbs in Sonoma County. And this is the next step, taking it beyond Airbnb and being more of a retreat center and a place to bring groups for very curated experiences during very specific times.
Yeah, once all that stuff happens again.
Yeah, well, it's going to be awesome when people can get together with other humans again.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking forward to that.
Share a meal, be in close proximity, exactly. Well, your vision here looks to me like it's about 89-90% realized. It's the landscaping's got a little work. You're building a spectacular, 20-foot long table in the what would you call that? Your patio.
Working on the outdoor kitchen area.
Yeah, it's stunning. It really is stunning.
Under the palapa.
And we're straightaway views right over the Fisherman's Beach here. You've got
Ponga Beach it's called. So we can literally watch the fresh fish come in and run down and grab them off the boat and bring them up and eat them while they're still flopping.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background. How'd you get here? You said you came as a 19-year-old and surf trip. What happened after that, and how did you circle all the way back here?
After that, I got out of college, worked as a photographer and in the media world for many years.
And you were at Brooks in Santa Barbara.
Went to school at Brooks in Santa Barbara.
Legendary school for photographers to really learn how to take pictures beautifully and technically soundly, as well as learn how to something about business, is the way I understood it.
Yeah. The business part I probably picked up more through my family. I had two parents who were entrepreneurs, so I didn't know that you were really supposed to get a job. I just thought you were supposed to acquire a skill and go out and sell it, and that's how you made a living. So that's pretty much what I've done my whole life. Cycled through the media business, from photographer to video to film production into internet.
You got to talk with your hands, man. If I'm going to take a picture of you, you got to be talking with your hands.
All right. So went through Brooks, got out, did architectural photography, did real estate photography, morphed into doing more video stuff, found my way towards film, and actually did a whole long stint of printing. I moved to Sweden as a 30-year-old or 29-year-old. And was in the printing business for a while, which then led me into other kinds of media, which eventually got me to the internet, which was what was
new and hot.
Yeah, and I was the one American in this big media concern, and they go, "Oh, well, you speak English better than everybody else, so why don't you go to Silicon Valley and find out what we should be doing? We want to be an internet company." And so, "Oh, okay." vague instructions, but that connected us to Yahoo. I built a relationship there. At some point, we were about to do a deal with Yahoo, and Yahoo decided instead they just wanted to hire me and not do a joint venture with another company. So I moved over, was running Yahoo in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark for a good, I don't know, a couple, 3 years, and got it off the ground. We launched it, had the most traffic of any site. This is back when Yahoo was still a thing. Mm-hmm. And, eventually moved on from that, did well enough with that I could take some time, have a new baby. I had one son at that point already, and bought a farm in the north of Sweden and moved up there and became a potato farmer. And kind of went back to what my roots were, which was my grandparents were subsistence farmers in the Bay Area. And I always loved being out in the dirt with grandma. So I kind of had this dream of going back to the dirt till about 2-3 years into it. And I realized I wasn't a really good farmer. It was a lot of work and hard to make any money.
Vision.
Yeah. And I gave it my best and had a lot of fun, dragging my little boys around and sitting on tractors. But it was at some point I was like, maybe I should do something more valuable with my time.
And what did that lead to?
That led us back to the Bay Area, where I got involved with some farming nonprofits and realized my skills as a business person and as a leader were far more valuable working, with Marin Organic, which I ran for a number of years, and California Farm Link, where I was on the board and board president for, probably 12 years. Putting young farmers, young talented farmers who were cut out for the job that I wasn't, finding them land and helping and mentor them along. Worked with a lot of really iconic, famous, people like Warren Weber at Starroot Farms, and had a really, really fun time. Had a career that I could drag my kids around to farms and do gleaning to help people who were in need and hungry, to deliver that food. The best. I think one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life is pulling up to the food bank, and with 2 or 3 of my boys in the truck and unloading 1,000 pounds of fresh produce, the stuff you got at Zuni Cafe, and the same level that all the star chefs in San Francisco were using, we were handing to moms and kids who couldn't afford to eat.
Amazing.
And having my boys on the back of the truck unloading bags of vegetables was
amazing.
Yeah, it was epic. So but I did that for a long time. Somewhere in there, my little farm morphed into an Airbnb, and I started getting introduced to the hospitality industry and a way, not just through the food side, but also through hosting. And I just fell in love with it. I thought it was like, this is what I really want to do. So set up a rental in Laredo just to help me spend more time in Mexico.
Yeah, and your mom's there, right?
Yeah, my mom has a beautiful place there.
And you drew the straw that was going to have to come down and look after mom?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, that's what I heard on a baseball diamond in San Francisco. That's the story I heard.
Yeah, that's pretty correct. So anyway, we got that going, and then I found this property over here and decided to build something, and let's give it a shot and see what we can do on the West Coast. As much as I love the Sea of Cortez and being on the East Coast of the Baja Peninsula, the West Coast to me is still something very, very special. I'd still probably rather spend my days here. I just love the fresh air and the smell of the Pacific and the feel of the Pacific. It's just in my blood. So
you've got a spectacular place going, and tell me about what it was like when you found it and how that story played out. And how long did you look before you said this is the one?
So I, pretty early on, and as a matter of fact, I can track it back to being a 19-year-old on the point over there, looking across this way and realizing this area that they call Ponga Beach, because all the fishermen have their boats, they're called pongas, down on the beach here. There was just something about it. It just caught my attention. There's a cemetery here. Cemetery's always been on this side of the village. And just the way the bay wraps around, and I've always been one. I don't like to be in the thick of the action. I don't want to be. There's an area called Gringo Hill,
right,
where all the gringos from San Diego came down in the 70s and all built right up next to each other and created a really nice little community. But it's not how I want to be. I've always sort of wanted to be a little more off the beaten path. So even as a 19-year-old, I looked over here and went, wow, I wished I could just figure out how to, set up a tent and be able to hang out over there and just spend my time hanging out here. So anyway, I rediscovered this place once we're frequenting Laredo again on a regular basis, and started looking at lots over here in this area, up kind of behind me, and had pretty much settled on 2 of them and was making offers on them, and seemed like those were going to go through. And then I was looking at one of them one day. I was actually out here stomping around, and the guy who owned this piece of property happened to be here. They called him Hawaii Tom. And Hawaii Tom stuck his head out through the gate and asked me in Spanish who I was and what I was doing. And I replied to him in Spanish, and then I said, you want to speak Spanish? And it was pretty clear that wasn't his first language. So we switched over to English. And he showed me around, showed me his little bodega where we're sitting now, which was just packed shoulder high with stuff. And he had an Airstream out here that he spent all of his time living in. And we almost on the spot settled on he told me what he mentioned to me. He said, oh, don't buy the lot across the street. I think I'm ready. I've been coming here for 15 years. I come here every August and September, and I'm done. I want to go travel other places. So I said, okay, what do you want? He told me his price, and I said, okay, I'll buy it from you. And it took us about another 3 or 4 months to finally do the deal. But we acquired the property and by Easter of that year, and got down here and started working on it. So it's been an amazingly fun project to work on, converting this bodega into this living space, adding a much larger living space above, bringing in shipping containers that we're turning into guest rooms, and then eventually acquiring the lot below that's down almost on beach level that we're just going to develop. We put in some septic systems now, and going to do glamping down there. So I have a bunch of big 16-foot diameter canvas tents we'll set up down there, be able to put another 12 beds down there, and looking forward to being able to start welcoming people when people are ready to travel again.
It's going to be like Moncas of San Juanico.
Exactly, yeah. That's actually
little stuff scattered here and
up
there.
Through the hills, yeah. And there's a place in Big Sur called Deep Gin's, Big Sur Lodge, and that's actually been one of the inspirations.
Amazing.
As has Chili Chilo down in La Ventana.
Okay.
They did the whole glamping thing, and they've done it really nicely.
And so you're sort of splitting time now between Europe. Still, you've moved your family recently. Was that COVID related that you decided to move there? Or?
To say, I guess that was kind of the final catalyst.
Okay.
My wife's Danish. Again, I spent 13 years of my life living in Scandinavia earlier, and then 17 back in California. And I think all of our boys decided they wanted to move back to Europe. So we were feeling the pull that we want to be closer to them. My wife, I think, was ready to go home. She wanted to go exercise her craft as a Waldorf kindergarten teacher in her own language. She's been doing it for a long time in English and felt like it would be nice to have some time before retirement hits to do it over there. And I think, we probably thought it was going to be in another 2 or 3 years that we would pull the trigger on that. COVID and all the craziness that's just been erupting, everything from QAnon to whatever. I think we just felt really alienated, and we were like, is this really where we want to, spend our time and our money and our energy, or is it time to go to someplace else?
Well, yeah, it's interesting when you do have a little opportunities and funding. You can make choices and figure out where you want to be.
We're very privileged and very lucky that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that we have the access to another country. Not everybody can just pick up and move to Denmark or Sweden.
Right, and it obviously makes sense with your wife being from there. So explain how you get from home now in Denmark to San Juanico.
So
explain that process. Are you net jetting yet? I mean,
no, do you do that? It almost feels like it, because SAS, which I've been critical of in the past because I just felt like they were a little grumpy and not real service-minded, has stepped up to the occasion and just become, I think, one of the best airlines ever. Their jets are beautiful. The people are friendly, maybe because they're real appreciative that there's all of 30 of us on a plane that should have 300. So, I go back and forth every month, and I have a whole row to myself. I can lay down, sleep the entire flight. It's 8.5 hours coming. I fly from Copenhagen to San Francisco, make my way up to Sebastopol, where we're in the process of selling our house, but I still have a little farm there. And, decompress for a couple days there, and then I jump in the truck and drive down here. So the trips have been incredibly easy because nobody's on the plane, and they switch out all the air on the plane every 3 minutes. And it's amazing how much better you feel when you get off a long flight, when you actually have been breathing good, clean, real air the whole time and not recycled air.
And on that drive down, you do it in one shot, but you don't have to plan on the LA traffic anymore. I mean, there is some.
Well,
but
I
there's
go to
not the crushing traffic that there used to be that you had to plan your whole day around.
True. Though we only did a couple runs through Tijuana and down Highway 1 before we were really sick of it. And even before Highway 5 was finished and there was still a lot of dirt road, we started going over to Calexico. So we'll drive from the Bay Area to Calexico, sleep, get up at 4:35 in the morning, cross the border in Mexicali, and then on Highway 5, which today is like a
Lovely.
superhighway.
Yeah,
I almost don't want to say it because I don't
yeah.
want other people to know.
Exactly. Secret.
Yeah. So literally from crossing at 5 in the morning, at 5:30 in the evening, I'm in Laredo Bay, sitting down, getting my first margarita at the resort, and it's pretty much exactly a 12-hour drive every time. So in 12 hours, after an 11-hour flight, it's really not that big a deal. So, and it's a beautiful drive. Just, I enjoy it immensely.
Yeah, and 5 really has changed.
Yeah, as soon as...
The secret will probably get out, but it really has changed.
Oh, it's beautiful. Well, I mean, the good part is there's not a whole lot of development in between. So there, it's not like it is with Highway 1. We're getting through all the farm towns south of Ensenada. They just keep growing and getting,
Right.
bigger and bigger and more congested.
Topes and what have you.
Yeah, exactly. Getting through all the Driscolls, big farmlands.
So you're here. We've gone from Loretto, which you can talk about if you like, your Airbnb there and whatnot, your place. But tell me about, you've bought the place. We've covered that. Hawaii Jim, is that his name?
Hawaii Tom.
Hawaii Tom, excuse me. I'm bad with names. We've already just covered that. Hawaii Tom, you've bought the place. It's got a packed Airstream and a single, what is this, 12 by 12 or something?
Yeah,
10 by 12?
Yeah, called, officially in Mexico, it was a bodega.
Okay.
So it wasn't considered a living space. It was, storage space.
And he stored a lot in there.
He had it packed right to the top.
All right. So you went through cleaning that out, and then you blew out half the wall and got to see the view, which is stunning.
Yeah.
Right over the beach. Put in some big glass and steel doors, and got down a stunning Saltillo tile, and it's a little white Danish aesthetic here. You've got some very clean lines going.
Yep. I keep getting accused of that, of bringing Scandinavian style to Mexico.
It's very clean. I've noticed I slept under a beautiful IKEA down comforter last night, which was it was lovely.
Hopefully it was cozy.
Yeah, the beds are great. The accommodations are great. You've got all upstairs anyways. In our quarters, it's all handmade cement countertops and sinks and
Yep.
beautiful straight up rustic pipes. Not rustic pipes, but copper pipes.
Yeah, exposed copper. Yeah.
Industrial. It's very industrial and clean and straight, and a beautiful shower. And so, how did you get going on that? What's it like? I know everybody talks God and Mr. Gomez, the famous, how you get stuff done.
Yeah,
You've
got
got
it
it
right
right
here,
there.
actually.
Exactly. So, I mean, did you have a God and Mr. Gomez experience here, or was it a little?
No, I kind of had a vision of what I wanted to do, whether it was here or somewhere else. I've been looking at some properties in La Paz and have some ideas. Being inspired by some places I've seen in Italy and some places I've seen in Tulum and in the Yucatan and this kind of, and in Mexico City, Guadalajara as well. This Mexican modern, a really clean contemporary style that keeps the flavor of Mexico, but doesn't have to take it over the top. That all the tiles don't have to be bright blue and green, and which has its place and it's great and a lot of people love it. It's just not my thing, and I envision a lot of our guests are going to be Scandinavian. The fact that I live there half of my time, I'll be marketing heavily. It's a group, particularly the 20, 30 somethings, that travel extensively, and that's a really, really important part of their existence. So I wanted to make something that they'd feel comfortable with, that would feel stylish and feel hip and cool, and they'd look at it online and automatically feel kind of drawn to it because there's some familiarity. Yet it's still in this environment that's very different and very exotic for them. And it's just my style. I like clean, simple. I like raw materials. You'll see all over, just big I-beams and steel that hold the place up and hold up the palapa. And, I like the honesty of the concrete and the copper. And the copper's going to, turn green over time. It's already starting to really oxidize. And I just, it's alive somehow. It has what it is and where it came from. And if this room doesn't have it, but the rest of this building has something they call yeso, and it's kind of a real fine plaster that they put on by hand. So when you stand and look down the wall, it has this beautiful patina and this nice texture. And sitting here in this windy, dusty place, the patina it's just going to get more beautiful over time because the dust sticks and it kind of goes in, and so it'll develop this kind of modern Adobe feel. So that's that was my sort of overriding philosophy is like, let the materials speak for themselves. Don't try to cover everything up. Don't there's probably a lot of walls I would have probably left exposed cinder block, except for the preciseness and the quality of the placement of the cinder blocks isn't always that beautiful.
You can say would have made me crazy every time I came here and looked at those.
Yeah. So in the end, I was like, let's yeso over it, and it'll be fine.
All right. Well, explain. You've got a couple of shipping containers, and one of them is cantilevered over the other, and so you've got some steel work that's been done, and I'm assuming you had a crane in here for a little lift, and so walk me through getting that done here. You've got an American contractor who's a resident here who does a lot of building.
25 years.
Yeah, so he's got to have a lot of those connections. But walk me through that.
Well, so that was actually, I knew right from the beginning. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, I wasn't even going to build the upper floor on this. I was going to leave this bodega as a little studio and just plop containers all over the property until I started to realize how hard it was to get containers around here. The first two containers I bought from a guy in La Paz. They never arrived and he disappeared. So I ended up buying two containers that I still don't own. I have a partner in this, Andreas, who's Mexican, who lives in Constitution. And he was trying to help me sort of retrieve those containers. And in the process, he found a couple of containers standing out in the field somewhere. And he figured out who it was and turned them over to me, and I was able to go in and buy them relatively inexpensively because the guy just wanted them off his property. And lo and behold, he's the guy who also owned the crane in town. So he was able to load them up on a big flatbed truck and drive them up here and drop them in place after we did a fair bit of work on them standing in a field down in Constitution. Did all the interior framing, did the insulation, and all the electrical. And then sheetrocked them once they got up here. So it started off on a very bumpy path, getting ripped off essentially for two containers. It's fate, I'm trying not to put a negative spin on it. And then, but then, these next two, the guy who sold them to me, this guy Juan, world's sweetest guy, just couldn't ask for a nicer human being. And then the 40-foot container that's set in the side of the hill down here, when that one popped up in his world, he called me immediately and said, look, I got a 40-footer. I'll give it to you at a great price. So I bought it from him immediately. He packed it up and brought it up here and dropped it into the side of this hill for me, which was a pretty major feat. Did it on a Sunday. Came his son as the crane operator, and his grandkids were with, so they could go to the beach, and it was awesome. It was like a whole, family affair. It was like, it was what made, in some way it was almost like getting ripped off by the first guy, made me meet this guy Juan, that then turned the rest of this into such a positive energy. Yeah. So, it's actually been, the story behind it. The containers are awesome, but, now knowing Juan who can, if there's anything I need in Constitution that has to do with construction, steel, whatever, I call him first. He's got it all dialed in. He's become, a friend and a really, really key resource.
And how's your Spanish?
Medium.
Okay.
But
you're getting by with it.
Yeah. I mean, I speak Swedish fluently, pretty much as good as I speak English. I speak Norwegian relatively well. I understand Danish just fine. So I know actually what it's like to really speak another language. I don't speak Spanish the way I speak those. But it's every day it improves. Pony, my guy who works here with me, he doesn't speak English. He seems to understand most things, but refuses to utter a word. So, it's every day, just listening and learning. And, I try to pick up a new word every day and practice it a few times, and then it locks in and take the next one.
We can't wait to drive our old Land Cruiser down to Baja, and when we go with Baja Bound Insurance. Their website's fast and easy to use. Baja Bound Insurance, serving Mexico travelers since 1994.
Well, let's pivot a little bit here. Tell me about what it's like just waking up here, living here. We went out and had a nice little tidy breakfast at. I'm going to let you give me the name and tell me what we ate, because I'm gonna.
Well, it was
muff
just
it. Dahlia's, was it Dahlia's?
Yeah, Dahlia's, and she's open. I guess I'm not really sure how often she's open. She seems to mostly be closed.
Okay.
But on Friday, when the little San Juanico Farmers Market's happening, she's always there, and it's always kind of an event. And in general, I don't eat out that much here. I like to cook, and I love this place so much. It's kind of hard for me to drag myself out.
Yeah, you said you've got a regular line on fish. You've got a guy
fish and lobster, and
plying you with more fish than you know what to do with.
Yeah, so I got my freezer's full. We ate sopes,
right,
which were delicious. And
yes,
she does a really good job, and they're all crispy and nice around the edges, but still just juicy and creamy and delicious in the middle. So
right, so it's some sort of a corn,
basically
form,
masa, same masa you use to make
for a
corn
tortilla. Yeah, sort of a shell.
Yeah, form it into like a little cup.
Yeah,
little ashtray size.
Right, with a layer of refried beans, and then there's I had pork, which is phenomenal.
Yeah,
so sort of a juicy, soupy pork, and then topped with lettuce and tomatoes and artisan
goat cheese. And,
some soft, beautiful, crumbly cheese, and then topped with really great salsa.
Yeah.
And it was fabulous.
It
really
was.
It
I know.
was really
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for treating me. I appreciate that.
Least we can do for you. That and a bottle of Fortaleza Blancos. So, we're coming out way ahead.
We're good.
Yeah. So tell me about your life. How often you walk the beach? You were out walking the beach this morning?
Well, my morning routine is I usually wake up at sunrise. It's so beautiful here, and it starts getting light, and the guys are heading for the boats. So, you hear some trucks moving up and down. And so, my standard routine is get up, make a cup of coffee. I go straight down to the beach. I walk a kilometer or so down the beach and back and drink my coffee and contemplate the day. And in all honesty, the last couple of weeks since I got here, I literally have not set foot off of this property for the rest until the next morning. We've just been working so hard trying to get the space you slept in ready, getting all those little details, little racks for holding towels and hooks and whatnot, all finished and cleaned. And so it's been a lot.
Well, it looks all dialed in to me.
Thank you. Yeah, well, that was the point. Trying to get it looking
really
good before you got here.
Yeah, that's great.
But my son's flying in from Copenhagen tomorrow. So when he gets back over here on Monday with me, we'll play some more. He's a hard worker and really, really a driven kid, but at the same time he likes to have fun. So and he forces me to go have fun too.
Oh, good.
So I'm looking forward to having him here because it'll get me out and get some exercise.
How do you explain Baja to people who haven't come here?
So it's this funny place which has kind of a weird mixture of Mexican, California. There's a long tradition of explorers heading down here in four-wheel drive vehicles. I mean, if you
like mine,
yeah. I mean, well, and the first time I got here, and the long dusty trek to find this little gem. So it's it's been like this little hidden oasis to me. A lot of people go, oh, the desert. I don't want to be out in the desert, and they don't realize how beautiful the desert is, and what an amazing place this can be. My first draw was always the coast. I came down here to surf and play in the water. And then as I got older, I started realizing it's about a lot more than that. It's, it's the food, it's the cowboy culture up in the mountains. It's the difference in culture between, here to Cabo, which is, turned into this crazy Disneyland atmosphere that, doesn't look like anything that I recall from when I went there the first time as a college student. So, it's really diverse. And I don't exactly know. One of the things that I do always try to impress on people is overall, compared to a lot of other parts of Mexico, it's safe. I really feel safe and secure here. I drive hours and hours and hours out in the middle of nowhere down dirt roads. I've had numerous flat tires, and never once have I been stuck somewhere that at least 2 or 3 Mexican families didn't stop and want to fix my tire for me.
And so can you just unpack that a little bit? Because that's really Baja in its essence right there. Somebody's going to help you.
Yeah, this place is so friendly, and people don't have a lot here. They scrape. I mean, the ingenuity to survive and enjoy, and the way Mexicans can fix things with a stick and a rock and a stick of gum or whatever. I mean, the amazing ingenuity just blows me away daily. My guy Pony. It's like, oh, I got this tool, and he goes, I don't need a tool. I got this little stick, and I'll just fix it. But everybody's so generous. There's been so many times out in the middle of the desert, I'll pull up to some place, I have no idea where I am or where I should be going. I'll find some cowboy out there in the middle of nowhere, and he always offers me something. You want to have something to eat? I'll pull out a couple beers out of the cooler, and and I used to always say no, it's okay. And now I've realized I'm missing out on a lot of great flavors. Being a food guy. I just, oh, you got some dried beef? Yeah, I'd love to try that. Or dried fish or machaca or whatever it happens to be. Tortillas that they made that morning, over a fire somewhere. I guess to some degree I feel bad taking somebody else's food who probably doesn't have a whole lot. But it also feels wrong, not accepting the hospitality. And I just find, people of Baja are amazingly hospitable.
And so, do you think you change when you come here from the Jeffrey Westman you are in Sebastopol or in Europe? Do you think you change and you're more open or more accepting just because this wide open, harsh environment, you would help somebody on the side of the road and they're going to help you and he's going to offer you this and you're going to give him that? I don't know. Are you that guy in other places as well?
I am. I am. Well, and I think partly just because I'm getting old. And, I don't know that I have, I think it's also the amalgam has come together that I am who I am. And I think I've always had a pretty generous giving tendency and, wanted to be that person. Maybe sometimes not been because I felt like, oh, I'm a businessman. I'm supposed to be a certain way and, forge out my piece. And not necessarily I felt great about that. But I feel like I've learned a lot. And I think, over the last, at least 15 years, being down here more and experiencing the level of hospitality, I feel like I've taken that deeper in back home with me. So yeah, I do. I feel like I've learned a lot, and if I see somebody on the side of the road with a flat tire and their bicycle in Denmark, I'll always stop and ask them, you need some help? You want to call somebody? And they usually just shoo me off because like, what's wrong with you? I know how to fix a tire. Leave me alone.
Hey, so do you want to interact with people on the internet? How would people find you if you wanted to be found?
So I just launched the website. I preface that with it's far from finished, but I just felt like I needed to get something up there. So okay. It's sjsurfsociety.com.
SJ Surf Society, like San Juanico Surf Society.com.
sjsurfsociety.com. So the site's up there and running and will be slowly evolving. I'm really bad about working on it when I'm here. I should be like maybe more focused, but I spend all my time, outside putting in plants and trying to do other things. Instagram, I have the same thing, SJ Surf Society. And, right now, if they want to fire off a message, it's going to come to me and I'll answer as quickly as possible. And, love to start, if there's people out there that have some dream about, we've spoken to a number of retreat planners and people who produce various types of retreats, particularly retreats for older adults. A lot of, the
You mean older adults like us?
Yeah, pretty much.
And then-
The third act adults.
Older adults who still want to go do something fun, but come back to a nice bed at night and a shower that works.
Exactly, and that's kind of even when people come to stay in the glamping tents, we're going to have very comfortable beds, private showers, private bathrooms. You'll just be in a big tent.
Awesome.
But for people looking for adventure, particularly people looking for venues to bring groups, there's going to be a day when we can all gather again.
I can't wait for it. And SJ Surf Society is Slow Baja approved, and I just wish we could stay another night or another night or another night.
Love to keep you for a week.
It was really lovely, but we got in very late last night, and we're going to be out of here at about noon today, and the sun's shining. I'm going to throw on my Birdwell beach britches and run into the surf and try not to get stung by a stingray. So
Yeah.
from beautiful SJ Surf Society, the San Juanico Surf Society, with Jeffrey Westman, Slow Baja signing off.
Excellent. Thank you.
No, thank you. That was great.
Slow Baja's wardrobe is provided by Taylor Stitch. Responsibly built for the long haul, Taylor Stitch makes clothes that wear in, not out. Wherever your adventure takes you, Taylor Stitch has you covered. Check them out at taylorstitch.com. Hey, you guys know what to do. Please help us by subscribing, sharing, rating, all that stuff. And if you missed anything, you can find the links in the show notes at slowbaja.com. I'll be back before you know it. And if you want to receive notices on new episodes, please follow Slow Baja on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for you old folks.